Good afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome to the inaugural Stand for Children Day luncheon. My name is Darryl King. I'm the interim CEO of the Early Learning Coalition of Manatee County, and it really is so special for me to see so many of our partner agencies, advocates, friends and supporters in the audience who all unite behind one mission: the education, health, safety and well-being of our local children. With that said, as we saw only eight days ago in Uvalde, Texas, so many of our children remain vulnerable to the evil in this world. Before we start today, can I ask you please to bow your heads in a moment of silence to remember the 19 elementary-aged children and their 2 teachers who so tragically lost their lives last week. Thank you. Of course, today would not be possible without the generous support of our many sponsors and all of you who have purchased tables and tickets. In truly challenging times, we thank you so much for your unwavering support of the ELC. Our presenting sponsor today, all the way from New York City, Child's Play. Joe Gardner, a fantastic friend of the Coalition. Thank you, Joe, for the hundreds and thousands of books that you distribute in Manatee County and the state of Florida. Our platinum level sponsors, PCI Communications, Right Technology, and Tim and Tina Vining. Thank you so much for your generosity. Our gold level sponsors, Sunflora Inc., Manatee Memorial Foundation, the Florida VPK program, Reading Pals, and our very own Next Gen Family magazine. We hugely appreciate your support. And to all our bronze and silver sponsors, thank you. Your dollars spent today will truly change children's lives. I would also like to extend a warm welcome to our elected officials and special guests who are here today. Florida State Senator Jim Boyd, Mayor of Bradenton Jean Brown, County Commissioner Vanessa Baugh, County Commissioner Kevin Van Ostenbridge, County Administrator Scott Hopes, our Superintendent of Schools and a great friend of the Coalition, Cynthia Saunders. And last but not least, I'd like to have a special mention for our final elected official, in light of my earlier comments, who protects the schools of Manatee County, not only through the SRO officers, but a programme that we launched a few years ago with the Sheriff's Department, the preschool alert system, where the Sheriff's Department alerts childcare sites in the vicinity of district schools in the event of a threat. Sheriff Rick Wells. Thank you, sir. You may ask yourself why we need a day to remind ourselves of why we should stand for children. Shouldn't that be every day? All of us in this room understand that sentiment. But sadly, as I just mentioned, across America, our youngest citizens face real and enormous challenges in education, healthcare, the juvenile justice system, and sadly, their own safety and well-being. Today, we would like to do 2 things. Firstly, we want to shine a light on what our own Child Protective Investigations Division does to protect our local children and how that intertwines with an outstanding agency that we're here today to support, the Children's Guardian Fund. ELC first became aware of the Children's Guardian Fund about 18 months ago. We were humbled by their work. Of all the local non-profits that we tried to support, none was more deserving. I hope you learn a lot about their work today and can find a way to give them all of your support. Svetlana, you are a credit to your agency, your board, and all the children you help. Today is also a moment for us to pause as ELC staff and pay tribute to the man who knew exactly what it meant to stand for children. Paul Schaff. Our Chief Executive Officer was taken from us suddenly on January 12th of this year. Paul used to talk to me a lot about leaving a lasting legacy. I would tell him that the coalition he spent 14 years transforming into the second largest non-profit in Manatee County was that legacy. But for Paul, that was never enough. He always wanted to do more. Today, we will hear from others about Paul and his unwavering commitment to our local children and community. But I believe it is fitting to use what the ELC is today as my own personal tribute to the man who I was fortunate enough to call not only my CEO, but a mentor and a friend. So how does the ELC of Manatee County stand for children? We understand that the first 5 years of a child's life are fundamentally important to their future. We know that 90% of the brain is developed during those first 5 years, and that we must invest everything that we have in those first 5 years through high-quality education programs, reminding parents that they are their child's first and most important educator. How do we invest in those first 5 years? ELC serves 6,000 children each day in our two main programs, VPK and School Readiness, along with over a dozen community engagement programs, many of which you will learn about today. Research has shown us that for every $1 invested in early education, there is a minimum $7 return. This has been backed up by the state legislator, pushed by our very own senator, sending a budget to the governor's desk this year that included an unprecedented $4 billion for early learning in the state of Florida. Our state is moving the needle, and as one of 30 coalitions, Manatee leads the way. We know the community benefits that our programs bring to families, to the workforce, and to our partners. It is estimated that the total economic impact of ELC in Manatee County is over $70 million. But the true value isn't measured in cents and dollars. It is measured by the smile on children's faces when our staff arrive on the educational vehicles that you see around you today. It is measured when we see their faces when we distribute over 100,000 books, or when our childcare centres score in the top 5% in Florida in class assessments. That is the work of the ELC. That is Paul Schaff's legacy. Please enjoy your lunch, enjoy our programme, and please remember today why we all stand for children.
At this time, please welcome Vernon DeSears to the stage. Vernon?
This is John Vita, and he is the Senior Vice President of the Milestone Financial Group at Morgan Stanley. John Vita, everybody.
I think everybody's still a little bit tired from Memorial Day is what I think. This is, you guys are, it's a golf clap out there. So I'm going to introduce Mr. Vernon DeSears, CEO of Manatee Memorial Foundation. That's more like it. We need to add a little bit in here.
I think the most important thing is that, you know, we are friends, but we were also dear friends of Paul Schaff's, and we are here today to remember him, to reflect on him, and to share with you that his visions often were our visions, particularly when it comes to children. And so I know we are delighted to be here.
Absolutely. I would just echo that. You know, Paul was one of those guys that you just couldn't say no to. And that's probably because Paul was also one of those people that never said no. And it was, always a pleasure to put together different events with Paul, different things to try to help people out, because there was always a vision, there was always a direction, and it always turned out really, really well. So we're happy to be here to see kind of this coming from Paul's dreams and what he did, as was said, over the last 14 years to make this happen. So enjoy your lunch. We'll be back up in just a few minutes to get the program started, and you're going to hear from some really great speakers, and we'll honor Paul a little bit more. So thank you very much. Good afternoon again. In the interest of time, we're going to go ahead and keep the program rolling, and we'll have kind of a working lunch here for everybody to enjoy and hear some great comments from our next speaker. So it's my first duty today to introduce Captain Dennis Romano from the Child Protective Investigations Division of the Manatee County Sheriff's Office. Welcome.
Thank you, John. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that I feel really out of place when my boss is sitting over there behind me at the table, and he's usually the one up here. So thank you, Sheriff. I want to thank ELC for allowing me to speak to you today. This is quite honorable, the first inaugural Stand for Children's Day. For those of you who don't know me, I am Dennis Romano. I'm the commander of the Child Protection Investigation Division. I started my career with the Sheriff's Office in 1990. The end of this month will be 33 years for me. I was lucky to be picked, thank you. Back then when I was young, I was lucky to be picked for the spots that opened our juvenile boot camp, and I was a drill instructor at the jail. It was an amazing experience, probably where I first realized the problems associated with the youth in the community. Ultimately, the program closed a few years later, but I'm proud to say that the gentleman who delivers water to our building here at the Sheriff's Office every day is a graduate from the boot camp back then and has been with the Water Boy Company for over 20 years. It's nice to get to talk to him when he comes to deliver, knowing that he was a problem child back then, and at least we had some effect to help him, so it worked out real well. I spent a few years in patrol after that and transferred to detective position in our Crimes Against Children unit from 98 to 2001. For any of the younger audience, that was way before smartphones, social media, and dating apps. And yet, even back then, moms were inviting people into their home that they shouldn't trust around their children, and those things have not changed today. I remember one investigation where we did an undercover operation and we arrested an ice cream man who traveled to G.T. Bray Park to meet what he thought was a 12-year-old girl. I'd like you to know that that detective that portrayed our 12-year-old girl is actually in the building here today, sitting with the sheriff. I interviewed the suspect. He was polite and kind and well-dressed. And I asked him this: why are you so nice? Why are you kind-hearted? Why do you seem like a nice guy? And his response, I quote, was, "Children don't like monsters." I'll never forget that. In 2001, our daughter Denver was born. An emotional switch was flipped, and I could no longer sit across from the monsters, perping on our children and pretend that they made a mistake just to get a confession and make an arrest. I was offered a position in our narcotics unit and willingly moved on. Through the next chunk of my career, I was promoted through the ranks. The majority of that time, I was assigned to specialized units, and in 2016, I was promoted to the captain, assigned to as the commander of the Child Protection Investigation Division. One of the first things I did when I got the promotion and learned I was going back to the realm of child protection is I searched several of the suspects I had arrested in the late 90s, and I realized it'd been almost 20 years and several were up for parole. Irony, I suppose. Along with my career in law enforcement, I'm a longtime member of the Hernando de Soto Historical Society. That's how I met Paul. Back in 2018, I had the honor of serving on the crew of de Soto, and Paul was our Hernando that year. He and I had some brief conversations during downtime at many of our events. The talks were always geared towards improving the processes associated with helping children and families. It became quite obvious that children were Paul's passion. You know, you never really realize what you do day in and day out, or have to think about what you do until you get asked to speak in front of a crowded room. It's a little nerve-wracking. I frequently find myself asking people this question: wouldn't it be nice if we lived in a world where we didn't need a child protection division? You'd be surprised how many conversations I start with that sentence, and it's usually with parents who are working with my investigators who are trying to make sure that they're raising their children appropriately, and they're complaining about it. Let me give you an idea of the face of the Manatee County Sheriff's Office Child Protection Division. CPID consists of 40 child protection investigators and the support staff to conduct child safety investigations. There are a few present here today. I'm not going to name them all. They're at tables around here. But I will let you know they are the true heroes of child protection in this county. I'll add, it's been a long time since we've had 40, but we have 40 positions. Those of you in the child welfare business know that pain. I understand that. In 2021, Child Protection received 4,000 or more abuse or neglect investigations from the hotline, and 355 children were sheltered. For those of you who aren't aware of this, CPS's goal is not to shelter children, it's to provide the services needed in order to avoid sheltering children from their parents. By law, investigators are to utilize the least disruptive means possible when considering the safety and well-being of children in a home. Sheltering is always our last resort, but it happens. Last year, the top 3 reasons for shelters were domestic violence, inadequate supervision, and substance misuse. And that's a revolving door every year. We also have 10 crimes against children detectives and a sergeant who investigate criminal acts committed upon children. Not all child protection investigations rise to a criminal level. In 2021, the Crimes Against Children detectives investigated over 1,700 cases against children, and 130 of those ended in arrest. 2 of our Crimes Against Children detectives specifically work child pornography cases in Manatee County. Last year, we had 191 child pornography tips just in Manatee County. Technology is amazing, we all agree, when it's used for the right reasons. But we live in a world surrounded by monsters who are very hard to identify. Be mindful of who your children are communicating with and what they're doing online. Talk to your children. Trust me, if you don't talk to your children, the monsters will. We have 4 domestic violence unit detectives and 2 domestic violence advocates and a sergeant. In 2021, the domestic violence unit investigated 796 cases, and 191 resulted in arrest. The advocates attended 234 injunctions for protection. That's a lot. And they're constantly helping victims of domestic violence. We have 2 sex offender unit full-time detectives and a sergeant. And in 2021, we had 549 registered sex offenders in Manatee County. The detectives conduct address verification 2 to 4 times a year based upon sex offender status, and monthly registrations and re-registrations at our office. So what are we going to do to help children? I find this right here quite ridiculous, but understand it. Every year we get some new cars in the sheriff's office. My wife got a new car last year. Do you know that manufacturers of vehicles are now putting a warning in the dash that when you turn off the car, it reminds you to check your back seat? When are the parents in the community going to realize that their children are more important than their smartphone? Accidental drownings and co-sleeping are also avoidable. Accidents happen, but so many of the accidents we see in this profession are preventable. I read this last week in the Positive Parenting Guide, which can be found on the Department of Children and Families website. Childproofing alone will not keep children safe. Childproofing, in most cases, increases the amount of time it takes a child to get into a dangerous situation, but it does not replace adult supervision. We need parents to be parents. I may not always remember the name of someone I met yesterday, but I do remember being nervous in 2001 when our daughter was born. My wife and I were very lucky. We had support. Not every family would be lucky to have the support like we had. We talked today about how easy it was to raise our daughter, with the exception of a couple mishaps. We told her, starting from a very early age, the definition of character. Character is always doing the right thing, even when no one's watching. She turns 21 next month. She's currently living her dream, working for the Walt Disney World Company, and she'll graduate the Disney College program in December from UCF. Proud father. We, though, all of us, as professionals, friends, family, or just a neighbor, need to support the families who may not have had the support my wife and I had. We can do that by simply sharing information. We cannot assume that everyone we come into contact with is aware of the programs in our community that afford resources to those in need. We can help simply by letting them know where to go for help. Does everyone in the room know that Manatee County and Florida, for that fact, has a helpline? 211. All you need to do is dial 211 and you can get connected with resources that may just help your family or a friend's family. Resources for healthcare, housing, food, childcare, and more. There are many representatives here today. I can't name every organization, but you're from amazing organizations who would do just about anything to help those in need. We just need to connect the people in need to our resources. Not everyone knows where to turn for help, nor are they willing. In closing, I'd like to say this. This is something I've said my entire career. If you see something, say something. And I don't mean just on social media. Many times in the past, I've read a post about someone who experienced a horrific event and they were so scared, only to learn all they did was post about it because they didn't know it was a crime. Sheriff's not going to like this because we're busy enough as it is. We live in a world where people will go out of their way to take advantage of trusting citizens. Not everything is what it seems. When you get that creepy feeling that something isn't right, trust that feeling. Call 911 and let law enforcement come out and check. I know many deputies that would rather come out and find nothing than have to come out a few hours later and work a crime scene. Please call us. Thank you all and be safe.
Thank you very much, Captain Romano, Dennis, Dad, all of those good things. How heartbreaking it is to hear all of the tragedies that are affecting our country, our world these days. What a blessing it is to see all of you here today, because what you're saying is that you're willing to stand up for children. And boy, I compliment you on that. I applaud you on that. And I just ask you to continue to share that message with everyone, because just as Dennis has told us, every day, every hour, every minute, another child has something tragic happen to them. And it takes all of us to be observant and aware of just how much they need us. And, you know, we need to be there for them. So thank you for being here today. and being a part of this great event. It's now my pleasure to introduce you the Executive Director of the Children's Guardian Fund, Svetlana Ivashenko.
Thank you. The Children's Guardian Fund is a local nonprofit organization that was founded in November of 1995 to provide funding to meet the emergency needs and to enable enrichment in the lives of foster children in Florida's 12th Judicial Circuit. The 12th Circuit covers Sarasota, Manatee, and DeSoto counties. There are currently 1,228 children in foster care system in our community. 764 of those children are right here in Manatee County. These children have been removed from their homes due to neglect, abuse, and abandonment. And as we just heard Captain Dennis Romano talk about the importance of protecting our children, I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about what happens to these children once they enter the foster care system. Who looks out for their interests? Who speaks up for them in court? How do we as a community know that they are better off now that they are separated from their parents? These are all critical questions because 90% of the children in our system are 12 years old or younger. 40% are 5 years old or younger. We're talking about infants, toddlers, and young children in the critical stages of their development. Once a child enters the foster care system, their average stay is 18 months, amounting to almost 10% of their childhood spent living with strangers, getting moved on short notice, and missing out on normal childhood experiences. They may be separated from their siblings, lose personal belongings, friends, and pets. Children are moved an average of 2.5 times per school year, which creates gaps in their knowledge and puts another roadblock on their path to healthy development. Many of you are probably familiar with the Guardian Ad Litem program. The Guardian Ad Litem program is a state-run program with professional state that relies on community volunteers to advocate for the best interest of each child in the system. We have the Manatee County Guardian Ad Litem program team here with us today, and I just want to say thank you for joining us, and they're all highly skilled professionals who do this work because they feel called to protect our children. So thank you. And I just want to say that Paul Schaff was a Guardian Ad Litem with the Manatee County Guardian Ad Litem program. And I just want to take a couple minutes to explain how a Guardian Ad Litem can make a difference in a child's life. Children who do not have a consistent adult in their life are at risk of not receiving adequate health care, falling behind in school, and not getting their social and emotional needs met. Guardian Ad Litem volunteers are the one consistent adult in that child's life, making sure that sibling visitation occurs, providing educational advocacy, making sure all basic and enrichment needs are met, providing advocacy in the court system, and making sure the child's voice is heard by understanding and communicating that unique child's needs, hopes, and opportunities to all responsible parties. Guardian Ad Litem volunteers are often called the eyes and ears of the court because they visit the child at least once a month, review all pertinent records, and truly get to know and understand the situations and issues that are impacting that child's life. Children who have their own personal advocate are 50% less likely to re-enter foster care, experience 33% fewer placements, are 59% more likely to earn better grades, have someone to request birthday cards, tutoring, summer camp, after-school programs, driver's education, prom, and more from the Children's Guardian Fund, and are known to have a higher level of hope. With over 700 children in foster care in Manatee County, we need more advocates. so that each child's voice can be heard and their needs met. Close to 200 children are currently awaiting to be appointed to a guardian ad litem volunteer. The COVID pandemic has made it very difficult for the program to recruit volunteers. We are in desperate need of more volunteers. If you have been thinking about getting involved, now's the time to do that. The Guardian Ad Litem program recruiter is here with us today. Her name is Tony Jeffries, and she'll be outside at the Guardian Ad Litem information table. So be sure to connect with her if you have any questions. Now, the video that you're about to see demonstrates how a Guardian Ad Litem volunteer can mean the difference between a child having to remain in a situation where she is bullied, afraid, and hopeless, to a permanent home where she feels safe, loved, and can finally thrive. As you watch this video, I want you to think about how any one of you in this room can be that difference between despair and hope.
This is a child who has been through the system for many years, has been bounced from one place to another. Most children probably would give up hope.
When I was 5, I was taken and put into foster care. Being with my family wasn't safe, and that's why I was in foster care. It's just terrible being in the situation that you are in, especially when I got separated from my siblings. It was really hard.
Brianna's situation, I think, is unique from my others because of the amount of time she spent from the multiple places she was in, not being able to be with her brothers and sisters.
I remember it was really hard that Thanksgiving. It was the first Thanksgiving without my family, without my parents, and knowing that my guardian ad litem was there made me feel really special. And it made it a lot easier to take the fact that I wasn't spending my Thanksgiving with my family. I was placed in a group home when I went into foster care when I was 8. So it was really hard for me when I was put back with a family, and just the dynamic and the structure, everything was a lot different. I felt like, what was the point in even trying at this point? Like, I'm just gonna give up because there's no point. There's no hope, but there really is.
A lot of these kids, they don't have a family, as many kids do, and they want to have some of the things that other kids have that they don't. And the Children's Guardian Fund supplies them, not everything, but at least recognizes their birthdays and gives them things that will make them feel semi-normal.
The Children's Guardian Fund has made a big difference in my life. It really feels like they're there for you, even when you can't be there for yourself or anybody else. You will feel like you belong, and sometimes it's really hard when you're in foster care to feel like you belong. And I asked the Guardian Ad Litem Fund for a computer, and I got a computer, a bike, I got one for Christmas.
Children's Guardian Fund is important to me and to all the children in the system because it provides money for material goods for them that they might not have. It's a place we turn for assistance when we find out that one of our foster kids needs something.
I was really scared when I was at the shelter. I was being bullied and I didn't feel safe. My guardian ad litem got me out of there, and I was put into another placement from there.
By some divine guidance, Becca and Ian appeared, and we knew right away that it'd be a perfect match.
I remember, oh my God, I was so happy. I was just filled with joy, and I was like, the week before that, I was just really like, okay, no one's probably looking at my photos, no one's wanting to adopt me. And then I found out that someone wanted to adopt me, and it was just crazy. Like, I was so happy. Not only did they make sure that I was adopted during a pandemic, they worked so hard to make it extra special, and I really felt extra special.
She's a shining example of what can happen.
Here in my family, I just feel like a whole nother person. I feel loved, I feel special. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for my garden at Lightem. I don't think I would be here. I think I would have gave up a long time ago.
Thank you, Svetlana. That was really wonderful, and it's great to know. I know it would make Paul happy to know that there's people in the community and organizations in the community that are doing just this, and they're protecting children, and they're giving children a future. And I know that would be important to Paul, and is important to Paul as our community grows and everything else. We were at a lunch meeting at Kiwanis the other day, and Ray Bellamy was the speaker, and one thing, he said a lot of things that really stuck with me, but one thing that really stuck with me at the end of his presentation is he said, let's make Manatee County a shining example. Let's make our community the example to every other community in the United States of what can be done. Let's not focus on what can't be done. Let's focus on what can be done. And I know Paul shared that vision. I know Paul, is always looking for ways to look at what can be done, when we do things and how we can do things and how we can make things better. And he was constantly doing that. And, we've talked a lot about Paul in the community and how awesome he was in our community and to us as friends of his that spent a lot of time with him and did lots of different things. And as we get ready to honor Paul, I just want to tell one funny little story, about him. We were in DeSoto together, as many of us in the room were, and did a lot of events together. And we had fun, obviously. We had a good time. But Richard Urice, I think, said it the best when he said, Paul was a rascal. And I think that really sums up Paul very well when Paul was having fun and when Paul was doing different things. And just to give you an idea of that, every time that I was asked to go MC an event at DeSoto or be talking at the Queen's Selection Banquet or doing whatever, I would get up to the podium and start to talk, and my phone would ring. And sure enough, I obviously wouldn't answer it. I learned very quickly to keep my ringer turned off. But sure enough, I would get to back to my seat, and sure enough, the call was from Paul. Just as a reminder to stay on your toes, John, and as a reminder to to be your best and always be your best and always stay focused. And when we did the event, a few weeks ago. We got up and we're talking, about Paul, and I got up and it became my time to say something, and I got up to the podium and my phone rang. And I jumped, and those of you that were there noticed I may have gotten a little emotional at that point. I'll try not to do that today. But I got back to my seat and pulled my phone out, and it was from unknown. So I like to think that Paul is still connecting with us in this community every single day, and we will see if we look. We will see little reminders of that every single day. So thanks, buddy, for that. I appreciate it. So to give us a little bit more about Paul and to honor Paul a little bit further, I'm going to introduce the president of the Manatee Education Foundation, Miss Mary Glass.
Thank you, John. Good afternoon, everyone. It is my distinct honor to introduce a friend and colleague who I've worked with for over 15 years. He's achieved one of the highest ranking leadership positions as President of the Senate from 2018 to 2020. He's a partner with Grimes Galvano Law Firm. Bill Galvano could not be with us today, but he has prepared a beautiful tribute to his longtime friend, Please take a moment and watch.
Hello. I'm sorry I could not be with you all today, but I really appreciate the opportunity to say a few words about our dear friend, Paul Schaff. You know, it's hard for me to believe he's not with us anymore. Manatee County is just not the same without Paul Schaff in it. Paul and I met after I got out of law school, and I'd come back here to the community I grew up in that I loved. I'd been away studying in college. And so when I got back, I wanted to get involved and become part of the community. And it seemed to me that no matter what the organization, what the event, what was going on, Paul Schaff was a part of it, and usually a big part of it. And I realized really quickly that this was a man who loved his community, loved being involved, and made a difference every day. In short, Paul was a leader, whether it was in 100 Club, Kiwanis, his help with the school's foundation, and certainly politics. And I know this isn't political, but I have to tell you, Paul Schaff reinvented politics in Manatee County. With his leadership, we went from having meetings in a room at a restaurant to filling the Civic Center with 700-800 people. I can still recall seeing Paul hosting a Lincoln Day dinner, and seated behind him were then acting Governor Jeb Bush and Glenn Beck. He was a good friend of George W. Bush. He was actually an advance man for the president. And yes, Paul's been on Air Force One. And Paul loved his Secret Service pen. He really did. Paul was into those type of things. Paul loved knowing what was going on, not just in the community, but around the state. And he kept track of things. In fact, I used to kid him and say, "You're like the J. Edgar Hoover of Manatee County." Paul was a fun guy. That's why I had so many friends. You enjoyed being in his company, whether it was going out to a dinner, a gathering at his house, his fireworks. And Paul did love fireworks. Believe me, he loved his fireworks. Now, Manatee County Sheriff's Department didn't share his love for fireworks, especially when Paul was launching them from his backyard in Northwest Bradenton. And people, I'm not talking about bottle rockets. I'm talking about full-on commercial grade mortars. It was a lot of fun. It truly was. And I'll never disclose where he got those. Paul was a generous person, generous to a fault oftentimes. If he could help you, he would. If you were in an organization, a charitable organization, or doing something to better the community, or if you just needed help, to the extent he could, Paul would be there with his time, his talents, and his treasures. Paul was a loyal friend, very loyal. If he was in your corner, he was there for good. He would get in a foxhole with you and stick with you all the way through it, whether it was in business, in organizations, and certainly in politics. Paul valued friendships and was there and posted up for friendships. I know recently a lot has been said, as is appropriate, about his advocacy for children. And I think that will, in many ways, be the overreaching legacy that Paul leaves behind, his work with the ELC. But he was a tremendous advocate in so many ways that people never even saw for young people in this state. I recall the many times in Tallahassee where he'd be at rallies, or oftentimes I'd be walking to my office and I'd pass my education policy director's office, and Paul was in there going over things. He worked hard to make sure the lives of children were better. And it went way beyond the ELC. His work with the Guardian Ad Litem program that he supported, persons with disabilities. He was very, very active in that role and made a difference, and it will be a different world for years to come because Paul Schaff engaged the way that he did. Now, on a personal note, I'd like to say to you, Ian and Evan, I've never met a man who is more dedicated to fatherhood. Of all the things he loved in this world, none compared to his love for the two of you. And I know you are grateful. So, everyone, let's remember our friend Paul, our community partner, our generous friend, our loyal friend, and our fun-loving friend. Paul, we will miss you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill, for those heartfelt words in honor of Paul, who we lost only 4 months ago. It's so hard to believe it's that short a period. If I could just briefly add that Paul was always eager to help children through his actions, his multi-million-dollar coalition, and highly innovative and creative concepts to help shape our county into a better place for children. Ideas like purchasing a decommissioned school bus like we have here and transforming it into a state-of-the-art steam machine. And recently pursuing a children's museum for Manatee County. Paul worked closely with many nonprofits and further promote the good works of ELC. During the last 14 years, I witnessed Paul enthusiastically pulling together resources and collaborating with our foundation and many organizations. Paul was a fearless and passionate leader who worked tirelessly with his team to create a well-respected and successful organization. So as we all stand up for children today, we remember Paul and the beautiful legacy he has left us for the children. We will deeply miss his generous spirit. And I just feel compelled to add one note, since today is about children. In July of 1991, years ago, my mother, Pat Glass, while serving on the commission, passed and adopted an ordinance for dedicated millage to fund children's services for abused, neglected, and at-risk economically disadvantaged children, and it's still in place today. Thank you.
I was standing close by Mary in case you couldn't get through that, but she also loved children. We honor the memory of your mother as well, and all the good things that she did in this community. It's now my pleasure to introduce the Director of Grant Management for the Early Learning Coalition, Rachel Spivey.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rachel Spivey. I'm the Director of Grant Management for the Early Learning Coalition of Manatee County. Over the last few years, I have had the exceptional pleasure of growing our Community Educational Initiatives Department one bus at a time. My role has been developing educational programs, engaging the community, and coordinating family initiatives. ELC Manatee is one of 30 coalitions in the state, and I am here today to boldly share that our organization is unique. We stand out because we truly understand that every child's adventure begins at birth, that during the first 5 years of life, children learn to explore and navigate the complex world we live in, which is why it is these years that are the most crucial. A child's early years build the fundamental stepping stones towards their future success. And here at the ELC, our goal is to help every child start their miraculous life adventure on a path that guides them to achieve their dreams and reach their highest potential. Of course, some children need more stepping stones than others, which is why we partner with agencies such as the Children's Guardian Fund. We see it as our job. No, We see it as our passion to ensure that every child receives the necessary support they need to reach their destination. For we strongly believe that with the proper guidance, early education, we can pave a way for every child in Manatee County, giving them the tools they need to live a happy, healthy, and prosperous life. To assist us in achieving these goals and fostering educational continuity, we created the fleet of vehicles you see in the room today. My guess is that many of you wonder how we utilize these buses and in what ways we shape early learning. Well, who better to share these details than my fiercely passionate team members? It is my absolute pleasure to introduce to you the Community Educational Initiatives Department.
Regardless of what background our families come from, I think being able to rely on community resources is a plus because that's what we're there for.
They're essentially field trips on wheels. When we roll in, we bring a variety of literacy, STEAM, play-based activities so that children have the opportunity to be ready for kindergarten. We want to make sure that our early experiences for children lay a solid foundation so that the child is ready to enter the academic environment, having all of the supports and knowledge that they need to be successful in all of their future academic endeavors.
I mean, they all just get so excited. They see the bus and they wave and they're like, all right, we're here, we're gonna read and we're gonna do our fun activities. They just light up. The first 5 years are the most important years of a child's life. So if we can get in there and help them learn something new, then we can change the years after that. Reading Pals is a program where we bring volunteers out into the community with us to different childcare sites and we all read together. We get one-on-one mentorship and they build their literacy skills. I also run the program Raising a Reader. We bring books into the classroom and each week the children get a new set of books and they trade it around in their class. When they're all done, they bring it back to us and we move on to the next site.
If you get a book to one of the kids, it could change their whole life. Give us a few months, you'll see the kid like a different person. They have more trust in us. They get on, they're so excited.
To know that that child is prepared because they're not spending the first half of their school year addressing what do I do in a classroom. They're coming with children that are ready to be in a classroom and therefore they can jump right into the academic portions.
We're here to break cycles. So we're going to use what we've learned in our past. We're going to use our research. We're going to use all the tools and resources in the community, especially our people, to break the cycles and give our children opportunities that we didn't have in the past. And I feel like that's vital for our growth as a community, as a country, in every aspect.
It's the readiness skills that go along with being in a classroom. It's the fact that they know what to do with scissors, how to open and close them. It's the fact that they know how to sit on a rug and listen to a teacher. Because if we can't use our bodies correctly in an environment, we can't engage with the activities.
The program that I'm a part of, one of them is CATCH, the Coordinated Approach to Child Health. It is a program that focuses on nutrition and exercise.
I help, I motivate, I encourage, I empower. That's what I do. I love kids. And I definitely like to help people who won't necessarily receive the type of help that we give them on a normal day-to-day basis.
This is so important because not all children in our community have had equal experiences at home or out in the community.
Teaching them things that they don't necessarily know about with the CATCH program, health and eating right and exercising, something that some kids may not, know anything about.
A lot of our programs under ELC are not just one and done. We actually give parents the opportunity to grow with us long term, which is really important.
I definitely believe our team is making a difference. I work with families who have children between the ages of 4 months and 4 years old. We mostly work with the parent and we help them with their child's social, emotional, cognitive, and language skills, and try to prepare them for school.
What happens when children don't enter school ready is that it becomes a compounding factor and they're not able to catch up. So if we don't know our ABCs at the time when we're supposed to be learning our sounds to be able to put words together, that child is still learning their ABCs and therefore they're not able to build upon those foundational skills to be able to read and comprehend in the way that they need to.
It takes a village to raise a community. it kind of sums it up in one. Like, we all need that support.
It's really our place to form these meaningful connections with them, for these children to know that they are valuable, they are loved, they are needed, and that we do care for them. Manatee County cares for them.
Every time I see a child learn something new, I get this warm feeling inside, and like I've changed a life. Honestly, I want to give back to my community. That's like my biggest passion, because so many people, the people that I work with today, the people that I've worked with in my past have given into me, have put into me. And I feel like we have to do that same thing for our community, especially our underserved population.
I was a special education teacher for 14 years, and seeing what it looks like when children are not prepared every day and the struggle that they go through, or what the teachers put in, is why I get up every day, to make sure that every child is ready.
To work for ELC is to work for the community, and I love it. I love it.
Our mission is to make sure that
every child is prepared
for future educational success.
As you can see, our community educational initiatives are designed to harness the power of play and ensure that all children receive the proper stepping stones to be prepared for kindergarten. I want to use my remaining time today to show my gratitude and also introduce you to our new bus, the ELC Explorer. I know it looks very different from the others in its raw state. However, we have big dreams for the Explorer. It will pave the way for inclusivity, educational exploration, and community togetherness. With your support and the generous support of the Selby Foundation, we intend to create a vehicle that can welcome all children and their family members. The Explorer will be our first bus with wheelchair access. So I have two asks before I take my seat. One, won't you please consider helping us to complete the transformation of our Explorer so that we can start every child on the path that leads to great success? And two, when I read a statement that is true to you, please stand and remain standing. If you have read to a child recently, please stand up. If you've helped a family find affordable childcare, please rise. If you're an educational leader or you have coached a teacher to become their very best, stand up. If you read, wrote, or supported a grant that benefited children, stand up. If you provided quality childcare monitoring, stand up. If you helped a child feel safe, protected, or healthy, please rise. If you've encouraged a child with a warm hug or a high five, stand up. And finally, if you believe in the power of early learning, stand up. As I look around this room, I am truly humbled by the greatness of our community, for it's you. It's you. You are what today is all about. From the very depths of my soul, thank you for standing for children.
All right, that was awesome and inspiring, so thank you very much. ELC does some great things, and it's really cool to see new things coming online and what they're doing. And in order to help them continue that mission, we're all here today for a reason. Now, Paul would not let us leave without having an ask. So we are going to ask, and one of the things that we'd like to do is just do a cash raise. And I think, are there people kind of around the room to see, to take names and to participate in that? Is that correct, Hillary? There's a card. How about that? There's a card for that. So there's a donation card at your seat. And the All the donations that are made will benefit the ELC's addition to the fleet programs and the Children's Guardian Fund, which supports local children and the Guardian Ad Litem program. So if you can pull out that card and just think about everything that you've seen here today. Think about what's going to happen, what has happened, and think about how we can do those things together. And I think in the light of making an example of Manatee County that's a positive thing, let's start to do that.
On the back of the program that's also on your table, there is a QR code. And you can also give by all of you smart people that understand what that means. Use your QR code and you can give that way. I would have to have my children show me how to do that. But anyway, again, we're just here to make you aware, as you've been made aware all day today, of the importance of this program, these programs, and the fact that, we're here to speak for the little ones that can't often speak for themselves. And what a blessing it is to be in a community that you see is working successfully at achieving goals, but the goals are far into the future, and the need is great. So give generously. And I think that Daryl is going to help that process. Daryl, are you ready to? You may have your own announcement. Oh, you're going to let us? But you're coming up now too, aren't you? Oh. We knew this was coming, so if we look sheepishly smug. You never go in if you don't, know something's coming. But we are so happy that From Child's Play, which is our presenting sponsor, Joe Gardner, who's sitting right down here, has contributed $10,000.
Thank you, Joe.
To help us with the bus. Thank you, sir.
That's awesome. I saw the sheriff over there using his QR code. So if he can do it, come on, we can all figure out the QR code. But I saw a few other people around doing it, and hopefully everybody can give something. Hopefully everybody can dig deep and reach down and give something towards this great cause and this great organization. And if we all do it together, it will be successful. So thank you very much. And are we turning it back over now? Okay.
And we also want to know, we're very proud of this young man here. I say young because they're all younger than me now. Daryl is doing a fabulous job, and we also want to thank him, Daryl. Come on, buddy.
Thank you. After today, I just said to Joe that I feel like the guy who gets the microphone after Frank Sinatra leaves the stage. How can you follow Paul? As you can tell, I'm not from here. He used to say I was from Arcadia. We had a standing joke that he put me in charge of communications, even though no one knew what I said, including him. But we thought that was a good thing, so if ever he was misquoted, he could blame it on me. But I just wanted to really thank everyone. I think today was good for the staff. We have our entire agency here today, all 50 of them, so thank you to all of our staff who are at the back of the room. We've obviously been through a really tough time, and they've been tremendous to support me. I love all of them. They're great people. I wanted to thank the event team, Caitlin Disbro, Kelly Harbour, Gabby Vermessen, Francesca Ricciardo, Kelly Staserick, and last but not least, Hillary King, who did something, I think. They're amazing. They really put on a fantastic event. This is the first time we've done it, and we're going to do it every year and hopefully support agencies who don't have the resources we have. Thanks to your generosity today, ELC will be making a donation of $25,000 to the Children's Guardian Fund. We truly believe in the Children's Guardian Fund, and we've been helping them with bilingual books. We've been helping them with all of the things that we we know that are near and dear to supporting those children. So all of the dollars today are going towards ELC and the programme. So thank you, Svetlana, and anything we can do, just please let me know. I just wanted to finish up by thanking each and every one of you. I think everyone in the room has children's best interests at heart. You've been fantastic in your backing of us today. Everyone who bought tickets or sponsors, we can't thank you enough. And really, the message is that we have to stand for children. We saw just recently how dangerous it can be out there for them. So thank you. Have a safe journey wherever you're going, and hopefully we'll see you all next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you.